Hello everybody and welcome back to another Wings of Fire book review. Today I'll be reviewing Book 8, Wings of Fire Escaping Peril, told by the perspective of Peril the Skywing. And for those of you who do not own this book and have not read it but want some insight into it, this is the blurb. The most dangerous dragon in Pyria is on a mission. Peril has always been loyal, first to Queen Scarlet, who used Peril's fatal fire scales to kill countless dragons in her violent Skywing arena. Now Peril is loyal to Clay, the only dragonette who has ever been her friend. So when Scarlet threatens Jade Mountain Academy, Peril sets off to find her former queen, stop her, and save the day, no matter what it takes. There's just one problem. A strangely persistent Seawing, Turtle, insists on coming along too. Turtle is worried about his friends who left Jade Mountain to search for Scarlet and haven't returned. Peril is worried that she might accidentally burn Turtle or burn him on purpose for being so annoying, and frustrated that she keeps saying and doing the wrong things. She can't escape her flower scales, and she can't escape her reputation as the deadliest dragon in Pyria. So when she's offered a chance to trade everything for new life, Peril has to decide who she's really loyal to and whether her own scales might actually be worth saving. So in this book, Peril, it's all about her choices and the kind of dragon that she wants to be. And so she finds out in this book that she has a choice. She doesn't have to follow this dragon or that dragon. She can do what she wants to do. She doesn't have her destiny set out for her. And so Clay is a huge inspiration for that. Although in this book, I feel like she's obsessed almost maybe a little too much, but because Clay is the only dragon and the first really to ever give her a chance, Peril wants to take it. And then she gets herself confused along the way because of other dragons. Like Turtle's friends, they don't trust Peril, and Peril ends up getting in a fight with Winter at one point. And so there's just a lot happening with Peril trying to find who she is. And by the end of the book, I find it really nice how she stands up to Scarlet and saying how she really didn't have to kill all those dragons, because Scarlet tries to be like a motherly figure to Peril to sort of convince Peril to follow her and obey her, and that Scarlet's like, I gave you this wonderful life, I loved you when no one else would. And so Peril, it's really Peril's mother figure because Kestrel wasn't there to raise Peril, and Kestrel is now dead by this point. She died a long time ago in the end of the Dragon Prophecy. So Peril doesn't have a real mother to help guide her in this. What I like is that she realizes she's been manipulated by Scarlet, and so she decides to remain loyal to Queen Ruby at the end. And so before that, though, I feel like there's this one interesting part, though. There's there's a lot of animus magic involved in this book. One part that we see earlier on is that we find out Turtle is an animus dragon, and that's one of his biggest secrets in the books, is that he's an animus, because he ends up finding these healing stones that save Winter from dying, since Winter attacked Peril, and then Turtle saved him, and then Moon and Kibble come along, and Peril doesn't trust Turtle's friends. She gets along with Turtle, and then Peril's like, oh, that's why he's not afraid of me, because he's an animus dragon, which you find out. And so I find that a neat piece. And Turtle, he kind of backs away from this a little bit. I also find interesting how Peril realizes that maybe other dragons have advantages too. She doesn't own every dragon. At one point in the City of Possibility, she ends up swimming in one of the rivers to not freak out the other dragons there, and she realizes that swimming is not her specialty. And she also realizes that when she attacks other dragons who are flying, she's not used to fighting dragons who can fly, so that also gives Peril a disadvantage in that case. She may have fire scales, but other dragons have advantages too, and that's one thing that she's not used to. And I love her fiery, burning personality in this. There's at one point Possibility, a cactus bomb goes off, and then the seeds on her scales like burn out, and she's like, yeah, die, and it's like really funny. I also find it interesting how Peril finds some chemistry with her father, who we find out is a Rainwing named Chameleon, and he is the dragon who's been working with Scarlet in book 6 and book 7. He was the dragon who attacked Kinkajou. We find out in this book, I'm pretty sure in this book, he was in the form of Shapeshifter, and he was in the form of Soar in this book. We also find out that he was also an Ice Wing known as Sirius, and he never knew that Peril was his daughter, and so Peril she wants to trust him, but we find out later on that Scarlet and Chameleon betrayed Peril, and she put this necklace on so she wouldn't have fire scales, but fire scales is a big part of Peril, and it was really nice to see, I liked Peril's reaction when she was touching the grass and it didn't burn when she was wearing the necklace, but then the necklace was enchanted for her to remain loyal to Scarlet and to have no memories of Clay. But one part for Peril realized that she was under a spell was because she realized Turtle believed in her and didn't hate her for who she was. And so her dad was like, wait, who's Turtle? At one point when they're at the palace and Scarlet comes back to the Sky Kingdom, and this haunts the Skywings. They're like, oh boy. They use Ruby's son, Prince Cliff, as bait in this. And so there's a lot of stuff happening, and then at the end, what's really interesting is that when the part where Peril sticks up for herself, in the end, Ruby realizes Peril isn't this monster and that she's a being. Ruby used to think, or does think, that Peril killed her sister Tourmaline, and we see in the prologue that Peril was the one who killed the Skywing eggs on the brightest night. That's what happened in the prologue. Although, hint, hint, there is one runt egg that got away, and there's no other information on this, but we know that maybe one egg on the brightest night when the Skywing eggs did in fact survive, although there's no new information on this. It was just there should be 8 eggs, and then the runty one got away. We'll figure it out was something what the guard said along those lines. And so a lot of people are theorizing that. So I found that a cute little detail to give us some theories in the future. Anyway, so I did with the beginning of the book before I move on to the end. Peril is really relying on Clay as a source for her motivation. And in the beginning, Scarlet throws the head of Glory to Jade Mountain, and it ended up being a Mudwing head that was enchanted. And so Peril's you know what, I'm done with this. I'm going to Scarlet. And then Turtle decides to join her, as I read with the blurb. And so that's what happens, and then they start their adventure. And then Peril, from the beginning, felt like there was someone following her, a Nightwing, shapeshifter in this case, who was actually her father. We see back and forth a relationship between them of, should I trust him, should I not? And then Soar, or Chameleon, as I'll refer to him, realizing that he has a daughter, and he tries to get to know her better and have a father-daughter relationship. And I like the effort there, but he still remains loyal to Scarlet, and we see that later on in the book with the betrayal with Peril. And then later on, once Peril declares her loyalty to Queen Ruby or Scarlet, one of them challenges the other for the throne. I think it is Ruby, and they do it in the old-fashioned way. I think it's on top of the palace, not actually in the arena. And I love the scenery, how it's all stormy and all the Skywings are gonna see who the next Skywing Queen is, and we get to see the traditional battle between the two rulers, which is really cool. And so during the fight, and Ruby is losing at this point, poor Cliff, who's watching as well. And same with Chameleon, like he's in the crowd, and Peril's just, she does not trust him after what he did to her. Although in a way she does want to give him a chance, but their relationship is kind of ruined from the start, or their chance at having a bond or a decent relationship just doesn't work. But Peril notices something in Tourmaline's, or Ruby's, ear, and so she goes over, and Scarlet backs away immediately, and Ruby is like, what are you doing, Peril? Don't interrupt my fight. And then Peril's like, I know, but this isn't fair right now. And so she grabs this slit from Ruby's ear, and then she burns it. And then Ruby is confused at first, but then she transforms into a different Skywing, who is Tourmaline. Sorry, I spoiled that earlier. But it wasn't, Ruby never existed. It was always Tourmaline, who was the daughter of Scarlet. And the other Skywings are noticing her, and they thought she was killed or dead, but probably enchanted to be forgotten when Ruby was the princess or the queen in control, or who was enchanted. I'm not sure how to word that. Anyway, so Tourmaline finishes the battle with Scarlet and ends up snapping Scarlet's neck, giving her victory for the Skywings and claiming her as the true Skywing Queen. But everyone is like confused. Everyone's like, where is Ruby? What happened to Ruby? And so Turtle ends up popping up out of nowhere after this fight. And so Peril and Turtle reunite, because Turtle admits, like, he worried for Peril. He wanted to know where she was. And even though they aren't in a romantic relationship, they are legitimately friends, which is important for Peril to have a friend who isn't Clay, I think. And so then Turtle makes sure that the enchantments on Ruby are right, so her mind isn't manipulated, but so she still appears as Ruby, so her subjects don't get her confused or nervous around her. And so then Peril and Turtle decide to continue their quest, and so then they've tried to find Moon, or they find Moon, Peril, or Kibble together. So Peril, Turtle, Kibble, Moon, and Winter are together at this point. And so then Moon is communicating with Darkstalker via, they read each other's minds because they're both mind readers. And so then they end up going to Jade Mountain Academy. I'm not sure how this happens because it's been a while since I've read this book again, and so my memory is really fuzzy on the events that happened. But at some point, they go to Jade Mountain because Moon was ordered to go there, and Peril's like, why? Where is Moon going? And so she catches up, and then we see clearly how terrifying Darkstalker is, the way that Moon reacts to Darkstalker's thoughts, even though we aren't even in Moon's mind. We are in Peril's. And so they come over, and then Kibble and Winter start arguing over what to do with the scroll, or Darkstalker's talisman. They don't trust it because I think maybe it was because Peril somehow got the scroll from Chameleon. I cannot remember how, though. I think it's because Turtle and Peril catch Chameleon, and Chameleon then runs off after they get the talisman, or he ends up escaping somehow. Again, I can't remember because my memory is fuzzy with this book. But if you were to read it on your own, which you guys should, because this book is really, really good, and I recommend it because the character growth and development is spot on with Peril especially. And so then Peril doesn't want any more Annis magic, no more fights, no more bickering. Nobody should have more power over the other, and so she takes the scroll and she burns it. And then the most infamous scene, probably in the entire series, one of them at least, is where once Peril burns the scroll, there's like this earthquake, everything starts shaking, and then we see Darkstalker emerge from the ground, and then he thanks Peril for releasing him because she burned his talisman, meaning that his animus magic would return to him and he would escape. And that was where we left off. And so the prophecy, that's the beginning of the prophecy that is being fulfilled. And in the epilogue, it's in Starflight's perspective in the library. And then we get an enemy in this scene, and she says, it feels like, let me see. In the book, the last line says, it felt, she said, like someone slithering over my grave. And so, because she's up, because she feels like she notices something when Starflight's like, who's there? And so then, the book after this that we will be reviewing is Legends Darkstalker, which is a whole bunch of background for this arc, and it would not feel complete without it. And then we'd be moving on to Talons of Power. And so that's where we are. I definitely recommend reading this book. There are parts to fix, because I feel like, again, we're off on the side here on another quest and adventure. Even though it's nice, I like the writing, I like what happens, but I feel like we're off from the plot, and I feel like things in the arc don't kick up until the end of the book. It isn't until like the end of the third book of the arc where things start to kick in with the plot and fulfilling the prophecy. But then we see what happens at the end of this book, and then everyone gets the hype up for the next. And so I suggest reading this book. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you on my next one, guys. Bye.